I'm back. I'm back. Oh, I was just, trying to get my best Cam Newton impersonation. When Cam Newton came back a couple years ago for the Panthers, scored that touchdown and started yelling to the microphone talking about I'm back. But it only lasted like 3 weeks tops before it went downhill again. But anyway, your boy JGoodWithSports is back. I know it's been a minute. I know a lot has happened since the last time, I've done this. Basically missed the whole summer, NBA free agent transactions and off season. We had that going on. FIBA happened, disappointing outcome for Team USA. Like that transpired. NFL training camp, hard knocks, all that happened preseason. I mean, at this point, we 2 weeks into the regular season. So I'm going to discuss what I've, learned so far, especially when it comes to football. But we gonna get into some other stuff too. But yeah, let's talk about the NFL real quick, because it is, the best, well, more so the most profitable, professional league in America, the $1 billion industry, right? We keep hearing that. So, for starters, the Cowboys. That defense is legit. The defense is everything that is being transpired to be. They have playmakers everywhere. Micah Parsons is definitely looking like this generation's Lawrence Taylor. I know we hear that comparison time and time again, but that's what he looks like. Does he not? Got that going on. DeMarcus Lawrence, he's healthy and he's actually showing up too. The addition of Stephon Gilmore has basically made the opponent's passing attack, anemic. Because you got Diggs on the other side. You just got a lot of hard-hitting, linebackers going after the ball. That defense is legit. Now, granted, they played the Giants. They played the Jets with Zach Wilson. But still, in week 1, to go into MetLife Stadium against a division rival that you know very well, not to mention a team that went to the playoffs last year and won a playoff game, to go into their house and beat them 40-0 is an embarrassment to the whole East Coast. So yeah, the Dallas Cowboys defense is legit. Now, how far do they go? That's on Dak Prescott. We'll find that out later. But for now, what I have learned is the defense is legit. Another thing that I've learned, Zach Wilson in the New York Jets. My gosh. Now, we've already been robbed of Aaron Rodgers, playing this season for the Jets. 4 plays into his Jets career is pretty much over with that Achilles injury. Shortly after the game, I'm sitting here, my thought process was, you keep Zach Wilson. He's been in the system for a couple of years now. He knows the players. He knows the playbook. Yada, yada, yada. It's also his make it or break it year. Like this here determines if he's going to, have a career. This is it. But then after, they play Dallas, I mean, granted, I just talked about how great Dallas defense is, but still, it just seemed like the man just regressed back to the rookie year, which I gave him the nickname, the Disney Channel quarterback, Zach Wilson. Because that's what he looks like, and that's what he's playing like. if there was a High School Musical version for football, he is starring in it by far. So yeah, I've learned more so that the Jets need to go find themselves another quarterback. Unless Zach Wilson just does a complete 180 for the rest of the year, starting in week 3. Granted, the Jets have the hardest schedule in the NFL for the first 6 games. They play New England this week at home. But, I mean, week 1, they was at home against Buffalo last week. They got, throttled against the Cowboys, like I mentioned, this week against the Patriots. Next week against the Chiefs. The week after that on the road against the Broncos. And then the week after that, they are at home against the Eagles. Good luck. But if they could somehow manage to be 3-3 after all this, they actually have a chance. They do. Another thing I've learned, and this one bothers me. This one is more of a homecoming in the worst way. I've learned that Justin Fields may not be the quarterback that we need here in Chicago. I'm not saying that that's what's my official, analysis here. But at a certain point, something has to give. So yesterday, I was a guest appearance on the Al and Powell Show podcast. Brother Al Williams, he's been on radio. He has his own radio show before the pandemic. So he's well known around my area. But anyway, one of the topics that we talked about yesterday was the Bears, specifically Justin Fields. He put up this picture of a moment that happened in last week's game against the Buccaneers, to where, on the right side, the pass rush was coming in his face. But also, if you look at the picture in totality, you would see a receiver up the slot just wide open. We're pretty much close to the red zone here. Wide open to the point to where the safety in the corner or the other defensive back was so far apart, and the wide receiver was going right up the seam, wide open, easy touchdown. And we both agreed that all 32 quarterbacks in the league should make that throw. But, of course, that didn't happen. Now I get it. I'm not saying majority is to blame on Justin Fields here. That's not my take. I would at least give it a third. 2/3 go to Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator, for not, I feel like, calling plays to the strength of your quarterback. I feel like if you are a leader, if you are a coach, and you are out here, trying to put, your students or your players in the best position to be successful, you highlight what their strengths are. You find that out, and then you actually, utilize that until everything else, can come up to speed as much as necessary. That's how I feel. That's my philosophy. But Luke Getsy does not, has not play called like that. They basically trying to make him into a pocket passer, but in reality, the way everything's set up, you need to be able to, do some read option, do some RPO, do some bootlegs, stretch it out. Same stuff we talked about last year. But back to Justin Fields. Even with all that, you're holding on to the ball too long. I know there was an excuse last year because, the offensive line was a lot worse than what it was this year, and it's still not great. And you didn't have the wide receivers to get open and stuff. But, on that play as an example, players wide open. You got to hit them. You got DJ Moore, who who they brought over and who can get wide open. And yet you have him, clapping the hands saying, like, give me the ball. So I don't know what's up with that. But, I mean, that's been one of the criticisms for the longest. And, for the past couple of years, we can highlight, excuses or reasons why, that's not happening. But at a certain point, just like Zach Wilson, like, this is the year, buddy. Justin, you got to figure it out. You got to make some plays. Because at the end of the season, the Bears have a decision to make. Do they extend the 5th-year option or tell you that next year's your last year under this deal? Because I tell you what, if the Bears season goes all the way down the toilet, and in the way the Panthers are playing, the Bears might mess around and have 2 top 5 picks. And I guarantee one of them picks is going to be a quarterback at this rate, which may be Caleb Williams from USC. So, Justin, you have to play faster. You have to get the ball out quicker. Like, those excuses are, we can't use them anymore. You have to figure it out. Luke Getsy, you have to put him in position to figure it out. And at the same time, even in the, not the most imperfect situation, you still got to figure it out. You just have to. Another thing I've learned. Kansas City Chiefs. They need a number 1 wide receiver. Now, the first game, when they ended up losing to the Lions to open off the NFL season on Thursday Night Football, they didn't have Travis Kelce due to injury. They didn't have Chris Jones due to a contract situation. So, it was Wonder Boy. It was Mahomes Boy. It was Patrick Mahomes just out here, just balling. Now, if he could, throw and catch and run the ball all by himself, the Chiefs win. But, it takes a collection of people. It's 11. It's 11 on both sides. And you got to have, pass catchers actually catch the ball. And apparently, Kadarius Toney specifically did not get the memo to where he dropped 3 to 4 passes in that game. And one of them hit him smack dab in the hands. Smack dab in the hands. I have a still image of the ball hit him smack dab in the hands, and you would think if you never watched the game, he caught that. But in essence, the play actually turned out to be a pick 6. So, with things like that, it's like how can the Chiefs be successful? And then, in week 2, Kelce comes back and Chris Jones comes back. You're on the road against Jacksonville. He only scored 17 points. Like, what is going on? I mean, not to mention that, Eric Bieniemy, who was the offensive coordinator there, he's now with the Washington Commanders, and now a familiar face. I don't like, to admit, but Matt Nagy is now the one calling plays. I wonder if that got something to do with it too. So, regardless, that deficiency, that's one thing. But as far as the actual people out on the field, I said it before on Facebook, and I said it yesterday, and I'll say it today. The Chiefs need to pick up the phone and make a phone call to Tampa Bay and try to acquire wide receiver Mike Evans. That's what they need to do. Mike Evans, in the last year of his contract, they are not negotiating anymore right now. I mean, I feel like that's perfect. They missed the opportunity of grabbing DeAndre Hopkins in the offseason. But go get my boy Mike Evans. That would make things a lot easier for the Kadarius Tonys of the world, for the Sky Moores of the world, for the Marcus Valdez-Scantleys of the world, for Patrick Mahomes himself. Go get Mike Evans, please. And one more topic in NFL of what I've learned. Josh Allen. So, on the Early Morning Sports Talk podcast, which I am a part of on Saturday mornings with my bros Brandon and Ian, we're live on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, 7 a.m. Central Time every Saturday morning. So, before the season start, I called out Josh Allen. Because ever since that infamous playoff game at this point a couple years ago against the Kansas City Chiefs, to where we pretty much watched Josh Allen beat the Chiefs with 13 seconds left on the clock until the defense failed him. Ever since that moment, all last year, Josh Allen has been a disappointment, more so, being protective of the football and turning it over in timely manners, specifically in the red zone. And so far this year, especially in game one against the Jets, without Aaron Rodgers, pretty much like 99% of the game, against a Zach Wilson, who you just heard me just go in on, ends up turning the ball over 4 times and loses that game. The Buffalo Bills was supposed to be that team. They were supposed to be that team, but as we know, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are that team. And the Bills right now are not even, second best in that pecking order, entering this year, because Joe Burrow had other plans and said, no, I've actually been to a Super Bowl already, and I've beaten you in a playoff game. Therefore, I'm a better quarterback than you, and my Bengals are a better team than you right now. And I can't argue that. Even with the Bengals being 0-2, I would still take them in a head-to-head against Buffalo right now. That's just what it is. Josh Allen, in order for this to work, you have to play better consistently. Like, you beat down the Raiders. Whoop-de-doo, congratulations. But you couldn't beat the Jets. With Zach Wilson, with Disney Channel quarterback Zach Wilson, you could not beat the Jets. That's unacceptable. If you're supposed to be this elite team, it starts and ends with Josh Allen, who we given like so many flowers to over the years, but I'm starting to wonder, was that premature? I mean, the man just got the Madden cover, but was that premature as well? Now, granted, the only player that should not have had a Madden cover in the history of Madden covers was Peyton Hillis, but that's a discussion for another day. I'll leave that brother alone. But all I'm saying is Josh Allen has to play better when it matters the most. Period. So yeah, that's what I've learned from the NFL. I do want to get into Dion, Coach Prime, really quick. Man, first off, I want to give this man his flowers, because the same school last year that he has joined this year was 1-11. They only have 10 scholarship players return from last year, and acquired 80 some players, 86 if I'm not mistaken, between the recruitment class, the transfer portal, JUCO, whatever you want to call it, yada yada yada. But the fact that they are 3-0, the fact that week 1 they went into TCU, who just came from the national title game, even though they got embarrassed by Georgia, but nevertheless they were in the national title game and ranked 17th. Colorado, with his son at quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, came right on in there and stole that win. They beat them in TCU week 1. Week 2, they played a Nebraska team who not the greatest school in the world, but their defense is not bad. And so the first half, they slowed them down, but in the second half, Colorado figured them out and then ran up the scoreboard. And then last week, we saw one of the most exciting games to where it came on so late. It was definitely a prime time game for Prime. We saw that happen. We saw, Colorado State just, flag after flag after flag, just, even at times it felt like crossed the line with some of the stuff that they did, especially the ridiculous cheap shot to Travis Hunter, who at this point is out for at least the next 3 weeks because of that. But nevertheless, I go to sleep, I wake up, I'm thinking that the way that the game was going at halftime, I'm like, well, they might lose. I wake up. Apparently they won in double overtime, and I watched the highlights. I watched this 18-minute clip of everything. And that just shows resiliency. The fact that Shedeur Sanders, at the end of the game, at the end of regulation, led them on a 98-yard drive. They were down 8. 98-yard drive for a touchdown, and had to get the 2-point conversion to force overtime. Shedeur Sanders, the times that I've watched him play with my own 2 eyes, that is a legitimate pro. He is going to play quality football on Sundays pretty soon. And granted, yeah, he got trained by Tom Brady, but still, like the fact that he's out there implementing the things that he's learned and putting into practice and succeeding, that's amazing. That's amazing. Jimmy Horn Jr., that wide receiver's a dog. Like, Colorado is not a joke. But I am excited to see how they're going to do in the Pac-12 against Oregon coming up, against USC, against UCLA, against Stanford, against Utah. I can't wait for those games. Against Washington State. Like, those games matter. But I feel like a successful season for Colorado is just to get to a bowl game. And if I'm not mistaken, to be bowl eligible, you got to win 6, and they're already halfway there. They already tripled their win total from last year. They're playing with house money, especially if they get to 6 relatively soon. Now, if they come out here and beat Oregon, it's over. It's over. And put that man in the College Football Hall of Fame. It's over. But the one game I am looking forward to is 2 weeks from now when they play USC. Caleb Williams against Shedeur Sanders. That's the game I can't wait for. That's probably going to be, outside the national championship game this year, that's probably going to be the most televised game of the year. And the last thing I'll say about this subject, I know we, call the Dallas Cowboys, quote unquote, America's team. No. The Colorado Buffaloes are America's team. Because people don't even watch college football are watching Colorado. Myself, I am checking the schedule to see when Colorado plays on Saturday. And that's the one game I make sure that I watch every week. Every week. Like, I'm at the point where I want some Colorado Buffaloes Coach Prime gear. And then, the moment I have an opportunity to get it, I'm going to grab it. Like, my friends, some of my friends that don't even watch college football, I mean, they'll watch the NFL and NBA and all that stuff, but the ones that's not even familiar with college football, we are talking about Colorado and Coach Prime and what he has done so far and how their schedule look and planning events so we can, hang out together and watch Coach Prime. That's what it is. That effect is so real. He is this age's Nick Saban. And Nick Saban had a long run of his dominance with Alabama. A very long run. But those days are over. And not to mention the recruiting class that's about to come in. Like, you think this is something now. I mean, the man went on First Take and said we're about 7 or 8 dogs away from really changing the game. You don't think those guys are coming next year? And then not to mention, if I'm not mistaken, Colorado, in the Pac-12 is pretty much going to be like a Pac-4 at this point after this year. But I think they're going back to the Big 12. So that changes things as well. So all in all, like, Colorado's legit because Coach Prime is legit. That's what we all learned. Now, I was a believer before, but I'm pretty sure after these games, the bandwagon has gotten so full that I don't even know if it has any more room on it, but it looks like they're trying to make room anyway. We believe. So yeah, it was good to be back. Man, I missed it. I miss doing this. But I'm back. I hope that's time around, my invitation to Cam Newton was a little bit better than when I first started off, about 20-some minutes ago. We'll see. But anyway, check out your boy, JGoodWithSports. A website, JGoodWithSports.com, at JGoodWithSports on all social media. Check me out this Saturday on the Early Sports Talk podcast. Like I mentioned earlier with my brothers Brandon and Ian, we're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, 7 a.m. Central Time. The Early Morning Sports Talk podcast. Sundays, the Destination Fantasy podcast. We are back. Last week, man, we were just answering question after question of the live feed. We get to everyone. So if you have a question about your lineup or injuries, trade scenarios, you got it. We answer it. And that's what my boys, Deshaun and Ian. 7:15. We're live Central Time. We're live Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch as well. So we got it going on. And that's also being broadcast on the JGoodWithSports Facebook and YouTube as well. So regardless, I appreciate you all. I got merch coming soon. But until next time, peace.